Are you looking to move to Point Pleasant, New Jersey? Well, good news for you. I got just a video for you. Today we're checking out everything that you need to know before living in Point Pleasant. We're going to cover a couple different things like the location, commuting to work, whether that's New York City or Philadelphia, the beach, and quite a few other things. But before we get started, if it's your first time to the channel, my name is Steve McCutcheon, and I'm a realtor at Berkshire Hathaway. On the Live in Central Jersey channel, we cover everything related to the Central Jersey real estate market. So if you want to be the first one to know what's going on in either Monmouth or Ocean County real estate, feel free to click the bell, hit the subscribe button. Let's get the video started. All right, guys, so the rest of the video is going to be done on the laptop right here. We're going to hop on a Zoom, just go through a couple different things, Google Maps, our MLS, the school systems, everything like that. So first off, we want to just kind of kick it off with an outline of what Point Pleasant looks like. Now, for some people that might not know, you're going to have the Point Pleasant that's going to be more inland right here. And as you scroll up to the right a little bit more, you'll see Point Pleasant Beach. So you're right next to each other, these towns, but they are going to be separate municipalities. So Point Pleasant Borough is going to be over here, and then Point Pleasant Beach, I'll draw on the computer for you. So Point Pleasant Beach up there, and then Point Pleasant Borough all in here. So they are two different, just kind of giving a heads up on that, separate towns. So if you see anything like that, if you're like, why isn't the one popping up? If you're looking for like a restaurant or anything, that might be the reason for it. So, but they are right next to each other and pretty much coincide. So throughout the video, we're going to be talking about Point Pleasant and Point Pleasant Beach. If there's any differences in them, I'll throw them out at you, and then we'll just keep it moving here. So for Point Pleasant, there's a population of about 19,500 residents, give or take on depending on the year and everything. So it's a relatively pretty good sized town. One thing to note is like there's certain parts of it that are going to feel a little bit more city-like or like a downtown area, and then the rest of it's going to be obviously like beach town. So when we go through like the homes and stuff like this area in Point Pleasant Beach, it's going to have more of a beach town vibe too, right? The houses are going to have maybe rocks in the front yard rather than they're going to have grass. Whereas Point Pleasant Borough over here, it's going to feel much more like that typical residential neighborhood area. Then in here, you're going to have more of a downtown on Arnold Boulevard. Really nice area. I've done another video in the past on it, so when we get to talking about it a little bit more with the shops and restaurants, I'll link one into the description down below, where I've just viewed a couple of homes in the area over there, and I took a tour of the downtown for you. So very beautiful area, especially during like the Christmas time or when it's like the holiday season, or even just like the middle of the summer and everything, and it's just jam-packed, hustle bustle over there. It's like their busy season. So there's a couple major roadways that run through Point Pleasant, right? So you're going to have Route 35. That's going to be to here to the east. And that's one of the main highways not main highways, I guess, like massive ones, but it does run a pretty long span. It's going to go from like the top of Monmouth County, as the most northern part, all the way down to Ocean County here, and even going further south. It brings you through a lot of different beach towns. So Belmar, Asbury, down to Point Pleasant. It goes, I think, all the way down to Seaside Heights, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even a little farther past there. So a very busy roadway. Then you're also going to have Route 88. That's going to run east to west right here. Then I'll go into, I think it turns into technically a separate road once you get into Point Pleasant more, but that's where that is. Route 70 is going to be a little bit to the west. And then the biggest roadway we're going to have that's close to Point Pleasant is going to be the Garden State Parkway. That's this one over here. So if you're commuting into New York City, for instance, this is going to be the one that you're going to use. Obviously, depending on which part of Point Pleasant that you're in, if you're on the western side, you probably just drive west to get to the Garden State Parkway. But if you're on the eastern side or in Point Pleasant Beach, you'll probably take 35 to 34 and to where it like combines up to here. So you'd come from Point Pleasant on 35, 34 more merge, and then to the Garden State Parkway. We'll get more into the commuting a little bit, but those are just going to be the major roadways that we have here near Point Pleasant. The Garden State Parkway is going to be a toll road, while everything else is going to be a non-toll road around here. The only other major toll road we have is the New Jersey Turnpike, and that's all pretty much on the west coast until you get to the northern part of NJ, where that and the Garden State Parkway intersect. So that's pretty much the main thing with the location. You're obviously going to have the beach. We'll get into that a little bit later on too, but a lot of different things that we can get into in Point Pleasant. So next one's just going to be commute to work. Obviously, just spoiled the New York City commute, but you can actually get to Philadelphia from Point Pleasant too. It's roughly probably going to be about the same distance either way. We'll type it into the GPS here. Maybe it's in distance, but I should say same time frame, for instance, right? So right now, I'm obviously doing this a little bit later in the day, so it's not going to be exactly the same time as rush hour. So if we were departing and we make this about 7 a.m., let's just say typical rush hour, extra traffic on the road, right? It's going to bump it from anywhere between an hour and 20 minutes up to 2 hours. So if you have a perfect commute that day, you can get to Philadelphia in about an hour and 20 minutes. And that is pretty accurate, guys. I actually live in Brick Township, which is right next door to Point Pleasant. Of course, I just covered it up right there. So you got Point Pleasant over to the right here, and then you got Brick Township. So I'm in the northern part of Brick, very close to the Garden State Parkway. And I also have Route 195 over here, which is highlighted, as you can see. I can get to Philadelphia Airport in about an hour and 15 minutes. So that extra little bit of time that would take to go east to Point Pleasant, that this is a pretty accurate commute time. So I would expect during rush hour, you're probably closer to that 2 hour mark just because of the traffic congestion, bad weather, accidents, anything else that might be going on. But this is going to be pretty accurate. Unfortunately, though, there isn't going to be any public transportation that's effective enough to get you from Point Pleasant to Philadelphia. So driving out to Philly is going to be your only option. Then you're going to have a couple different ones when you're talking about getting into New York City. Most of the times when talking New York, there's a couple different boroughs and everything, right? So a couple different parts. Most of the time, when people go to work, you're looking at that Manhattan area, right? So that Central Park, if you kind of like look on, if you ever watched like an SVU episode, that area is what they're pretty much talking about, right? Then you're gonna have Staten Island over here, Brooklyn, and there's a couple different other parts, right? So just to give you an idea, that's the main ones you probably are going to work in. You can go a little farther out east of the Bronx, whatever the case is. But if you're thinking work, New York City, Manhattan's probably your area. So when it comes to driving yourself, that's also going to be possible. We mentioned before just now that you could take the Garden State Parkway up north, but what do you do afterwards? So they have it down as a couple different routes. You can take 35 all the way up. Don't do that. That's going to take an at like forever. Or actually, this is the train route. The 245 minutes, that's actually not going to be accurate. But yes, so when we take the from New York City, again, 7 a.m. They have it again is an hour and 20 to 2 hours. So either way you look at it, you can pretty much get the boat the same time frame. This is going to be the Garden State Parkway, like we just mentioned. So if you're going up, get up to here. And 95, this is actually going to be the New Jersey Turnpike. So that comes onto this side. So like I said, it intersects. This is pretty much right in that area there. And then from 95, you can go into New York City this way. You can take the Garden State Parkway all the way up like we just were, go up in the northern part. You can hop into Staten Island, go this way in. So there's a couple different options for you. I wouldn't recommend Staten Island. That's going to be a little bit more traffic congestion, but some days you don't know depending on traffic. If there's any accidents, Staten Island might be your best bet in though. So drive what it weighs. It'll adjust it for you and kind of time wise. But you're looking at a pretty much a max of like 2 hours typically. But again, could be worse certain times. I will say actually, if you are living in Point Pleasant or you plan to, coming home during the summer times, Thursday and Friday can have a lot of extra traffic. So it's being a destination town like Point Pleasant is, a lot of people might be trying to get in or come down for the weekend, maybe. Let's just say something along those lines. They get a shore house for the week. Those are typically two of your busier commutes on your way home. I would add an extra half an hour easily to that time frame. So that's going to be driving yourself. You also have options to take the train or the bus. So we scroll into Point Pleasant over here. You're gonna see the train station. You're gonna have the last stop's going to be in Bayhead over here. This looks like the Bayhead one. I think the other one should be somewhere up there for Point Pleasant. Does it show if I scroll in more? Yeah. So the Point Pleasant stop's going to be up here, and then Bayhead's going to be the last one on the line for New Jersey or for the to get into New York City, for instance. So from Point Pleasant, it's about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, somewhat around there. Bayhead, I guess, an extra like maybe 3 to 5 minutes. But so you're looking at about 2 hours, 10 minutes for taking the train into New York City. That'll drop you off in the Penn Station, and really nothing too special with that commute. The other option is going to be taking the bus. So there's an Academy line bus that's going to be able to come to Short Points. Point Pleasant, ironically, is the last stop. I told myself I'd pull this one up before I made the video. Of course, I forgot. But so you're going to take the Short Points line. Give you an idea. So Short Points, this last one right here, that's going to be your commute into Port Authority. So they have three different stops you could possibly get off of: Port Authority, Jersey City, or the Wall Street District. But this line's going to go into Pennsylvania. Or I'm sorry, Port Authority. I saw PA, I thought Pennsylvania for a second. Maybe scroll in. So you're going to have Point Pleasant. It's going to be the very first stop in the morning. And it's also going to be, you can't see because it's covered up right here, but the last stop at night over there. So it takes you roughly, gotta scroll out. You got, let's say you hop on the 503. You get there by 7:10, so about a 2 hour ride into Port Authority with a couple stops in between. Once you hit the John Bon Jovi service area, this is going to be in Sayreville. From there on, it's an express route. There's not going to be any more stops after that, but they're going to stop, as you can see, in a lot of the shore towns we have here. You got Point Pleasant, Manasquan, Seagirt, Belmar, and quite a few others. So they're going to go up that route before they cut across the rest of the state into like the more central part. So bus, train, driving yourself, they're all roughly about the same time frame. You're looking about 2 hours from the bus and the train. Driving yourself, if you're lucky that day, no traffic, you get there an hour and a half, hour 45, give or take. So those are going to be your main ways to commute into New York City. And like we said, for Philadelphia, you're just going to be driving yourself. Next up, we're going to want to go over the school districts. So lucky enough for anyone looking to live in Point Pleasant, you are going to have, well, I'm sorry, Point Pleasant Beach, you're going to have the number one school district in Ocean County, and Point Pleasant's going to be number two. This actually just switched recently. It used to be that they were one and three, so this is updated relatively recently, and Southern was actually in between them. So it was Point Pleasant Beach was one, Point Pleasant Borough was two, or I'm sorry, it was three. But I guess they got increased, the ranking went up. So you're either way you live in Point Pleasant Beach, Point Pleasant Borough, looks like you're going to have one of the top two school districts. Now it seems kind of odd that they'd have separate ones. The main reason behind that is they're going to service different populations, right? So Point Pleasant, as you can see just from right out here, four schools, but the students are going to be over 2,700, whereas Point Pleasant Beach is going to be much smaller, two schools and 685 students, so almost 700, let's just say. Now, Point Pleasant Borough is going to be serving, as it says, Point Pleasant Borough, right? Just like that township, that more inland part of Point Pleasant. Point Pleasant Beach is going to be a little different though. So obviously they're going to serve Point Pleasant Beach, but then they're going to take in kids from other districts around the area. Remember how I said Bayhead before? Well, Bayhead and Lavalette they're going to go to Point Pleasant Beach High School for grades 9 through 12, but they're going to have their own elementary middle school setup. And then Manahawkin, which is a little farther past Bayhead, they're going to go to Point Pleasant schools for K through 12. So you're kind of pulling kids from a couple different towns to go into Point Pleasant Beach. So you're going to have Point Pleasant Beach, Lavalette, Bayhead, and Manahawkin all for high school. And then for K through 12, you'll have just Point Pleasant Beach and Manahawkin. So a little confusing in that aspect, but again, either way you look at it, you're going to have a top school district in the area. So just kind of scrolling into Point Pleasant Beach. About 700 students, like we just mentioned, K through 12, and has 11-to-1 student to teacher ratio. Most of the report card on here is pretty good. Sports, resources, all this, very nice to see. College prep is a big one for a lot of parents. You can see this is going to come in at an A plus, or I'm sorry, just an A, my apologies. Really good place to teach, apparently. I couldn't really tell you for that one, but I'm just going off of what we're talking about right here. And then here's a map of some of the schools in the area. I think there's only two for Point Pleasant Beach. Is it going to pop up for me? Why would it? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So you got the elementary. The same one, right? Yeah. So elementary, middle are all going to be one school, and then you're going to have the high school too. Let me roll out to Point Pleasant Borough. Also an A. Looks pretty similar in terms of just what they got going on. College prep, also an A. Academics, teachers, all this kind of stuff. So again, good to see. In terms of student teacher ratio, this is going to be 16-to-1 versus Point Pleasant Beach, which is a little bit smaller. So it looks like there might be some smaller class sizes per se on that one. Good school district for athletes. That's actually pretty. So I went to Freehold Township when I growing up. I know Point Beach, at least back then, was a pretty good school for athletics. It looks like they're still ranking pretty highly in that, being the top, I don't know, 15-ish% of all school districts in New Jersey. So, and there's, trust me, quite a few good ones in here. But yeah, just kind of give an idea. This map popped up. I'm not sure if the schools are going to. No, it doesn't look like they are. So, but they have four different ones. It's two elementary, one middle, and one high school. So you got that, middle, and high school. That's pretty much about it for the school systems, guys. There are some private ones in the area. If you go a little bit farther north to into Belmar, you'll be dealing with St. Rose. They're really highly rated. Their boys basketball team this past season. I'm making this in November, so there's a new season starting up. But the one previously, they won the short conference tournament. That's going to be like the main conference tournament in our area. So a little bit of a shout out to them. But other than that, Point Pleasant's a really great area to live, raise a family, and even the school systems as well. So next up, we want to get into the housing options, and I want to bring up the statistics real fast. So this screen is going to be Point Pleasant, and this other one's going to be for Point Pleasant Beach, right? So the first thing I want to cover is going to be the absorption rate. So we'll head back to Point Pleasant first. They are going to be separate statistics, being that they are separate towns. So this first one right here, this is going to be absorption rate, and you'll see 1.5 up to 2.5. That's going to be in months. So right, just months of inventory. So right now it's sitting at 1.85% as of October. November stats obviously have not come out yet, being that we're only a couple days into the month. But the absorption rate basically lets you know what kind of market we're in, right? So if we have less than 6 months worth of inventory, that's going to be a seller's market. If we're equal to 6, that's going to be neutral. And if it's greater than 6, that's going to be a buyer's market. And the reason that's important is it's going to let you know who's got more power in negotiations, right? So anything less than 6 is a seller's market, which obviously Point Pleasant is going to be in at 1.85. That means it's a pretty hot seller's market, right? They're going to have a little bit more power than normal because obviously the closer to 0 you get, the hotter the seller's market is going to be. So being at 1.85, it's a little tougher to get a home here in Point Pleasant. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of homes available. It might just mean they're going fast as well. On the other hand, when we go over to Point Pleasant Beach, see what it was back almost a year ago. It was sitting in the four range and it dropped dramatically during because these are the months our market typically picks up, right? Even went as low as 2.2 and whatnot. So it was as high as 4.2, went down to 2.2. Right now, Point Pleasant Beach is sitting at just under three. So let's just say three, for instance. So it's going to be supposedly there's going to be a little bit more inventory available in Point Pleasant Beach than there is going to be in Point Pleasant Borough. Typically in Point Pleasant Beach, though, is going to be less listings, but there's just not going to be as many sales usually. And homes, you can see they're lasting about like a month or so. So a little bit longer than average, I would say, for Ocean County, but still going very fast. The average sales price for a home right now, all right, I shouldn't say that. Median price. I usually go based off the median versus the average. The reason being is the median, I think, is a little bit more of a better representation, I guess, of what's really going on in the market. So average would just be taking the total overall number of sales that you have or the volume of sales, meaning the price, and dividing it up by whatever that number that is, right? So if there's a couple sales at one higher end or that are one lower end, that can skew the statistic a pretty good amount. Whereas the median is going to take look at the middle of the sales, right? So if there's 100 sales, they'll look at like the 50th and 51st sales, and they'll kind of take that number and use that, average that together, and they'll kind of get a better representation. So that's the one I personally like to use. So the median sales price right now is going to be $850,000. That's probably close to double Ocean County's usual. I think Ocean County itself is going to be about 425-ish, 450. I think it's 450 if I'm not mistaken. So close to double what Ocean County homes on the average typically go for. So it's going to be a higher price point living in Point Pleasant Beach. Couple reasons for that. One, you're going to be on the beach, you're going to be on the water. Anytime you go closer to the water, values are going to go up, especially if you have a water view or a waterfront home, automatically hikes the price up on you. The second thing is, I'm sorry, not the second thing, but going back over into Point Pleasant, they're going to be a little bit easier, or not easier, but I guess a lower entry point. That's going to be around $650,000. So not quite 850, but it's still going to be about 50% higher than the average for Ocean County itself. Prices have gone up close to 12%, or actually 12% on the dot, it looks like, up until this point this year. So year over year into November right now. So obviously, Point Pleasant is going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're kind of getting what you pay for, right? We just went over the school systems. You have number one and two school districts in the entire county for Ocean, right? So that's obviously a nice benefit. You're going to be close to the water, have the beach access, and Boardwalk. We'll get to that in a little bit for the entertainment options. So it's going to be a very nice area. We had 183 sales so far this year, with the majority of them over 500,000, right? So 183 sales, 154 of them over that amount. So it's you're not going to find too many lower price homes, I would say, in Ocean. I'm not saying Ocean, I'm sorry, in Point Pleasant, but you might have some areas where you can find some condos that are going to be a little bit cheaper. So if you're looking for maybe just a shore house, right, we want to just take this for the couple months of the year, let's say from Memorial Day up to Labor Day, typically the hot period, right, the peak period of Point Pleasant, then you can hop in, like you can maybe get into a lower end condo and use that for like your just vacation home in a sense, right? So we'll hop onto our MLS a little bit more here. Okay, ignore all those error messages. And we'll give you an idea of what it's like to just, I guess, kind of live in Point Pleasant, right? We'll just use both of them. And there's three different ways we like to break it down on our MLS, right? Adult communities, condos, townhomes, and single families. For adult communities, zero. I'm unaware of any, so if you do know one, please let me know. But there aren't going to be typically any 55 pluses. In most of the short towns, I would say there's only a limited space, but there are some that will have them, but a lot of them typically do not. Condos and townhomes, quite a few, 57, but that number was up to 380. So as you see, the majority of them are going to be single family homes. Price point wise here. So something that's pretty close, or maybe like in a relatively, this is even newer build, 1985. So you can go up to 785 here. But again, majority of them looking at 500. You got a couple down here, they're going to be in the low three. Got one for 269, 300, 300, 305. Right. So if you want something a little bit closer to the water during that summertime, it is possible, it is affordable to do so. But they also go pretty expensive. We saw one, what was this one? Almost 1.7 million right here. So you have anything from 300,000 up to let's say that 1.5, 1.7 million, somewhere in that range for condos. And if we're looking at single families in 2 seconds, guys, it's going to be pretty similar in terms of like variance. Now, I won't say that you will probably won't find many single family homes in that lower 300 range, definitely. This one's 399, probably isn't in the best shape to be honest with you. Yeah, it's been on the market for 287 days, so that's probably a bad example. But that mid 500s is roughly right. We're going to start to get that move-in ready feel to it, right? So you're looking at this one right here, 550, just from that initial photo. I would say it's probably a pretty good listing, but 900, just under 1,000 square feet, right? 3 bedroom. You might not be getting as much of a home here as you can in other parts of Ocean County. For instance, even just going into Brick or Toms River, two towns, one to the west, one that's a little farther south. They're going to give you something like that. Maybe probably getting a 4 bedroom for that price. But again, you're close to the water this way. This is probably more of a good representation. Once you hit that 4 bedroom range here, almost 2,000 square feet, 700,000. So just kind of give you an idea of what it's going to be looking like when you're going to be living in Monmouth County, or sorry, in Point Pleasant in Ocean. So not no adult communities, no 55 plus, but you will have some townhome and condo options, and the majority of the sales here are going to be that single family range. So let's say anywhere from about 550 up to what's the highest price one we got here? We'll have some fun. I think it's descending. 6.6, so almost 6.7 million. That was the highest one that we had over the past year. That's going to be in Point Pleasant Beach. As you can see, it's a kind of obviously a common trend. Most of the higher priced homes, the top five, or sorry, the top four are going to be in Point Pleasant Beach first. Then you'll start to get into Point Pleasant, which it looks like they only got one inside the top 10. So Point Pleasant Beach going to be more expensive than Borough. There are options in either one of them. Again, every time you get to the water, it's going to go up. And then last thing I want to cover is basically just your shopping, dining, and restaurants that you're going to have in the area. So we'll kind of go back to just Point Pleasant in general right here. And what do we got? What do we got going on, right? So as I mentioned before, it was a little bit of a downtown area. As soon as you get into 88, this is going to be a pretty big district over here. This is like kind of like a highway. You're gonna have the Stop and Shops. This is probably gonna be the biggest food store that we got in the area over there. And then you also just have a couple different like small businesses, restaurants. You got liquor store right there. Just some fast food places. Maybe some like car repair, that kind of thing. Got a bank. Point Creamery. If you are going to get ice cream, highly recommend this place. It's about like 5, 10 minutes from my home. Love this place. It's very good. If I didn't have one that's a little closer to my house, I'd be going there a lot more often. But we have checked that out, me and my wife, a couple times, and good reviews for it. So if you are in the area, Point Pleasant Creamy off Route 88, definitely must go. The other part of Point Pleasant, this one's going to be in more in the beach, Point Pleasant Beach area, and this is going to be their downtown area, so Arnold Avenue right here. So it does start out in Point Pleasant. You kind of see where the border crosses, and then we get into the downtown area here. This is going to be a lot more shops, restaurants, and like a lot of different things that are going to be going on in Point Pleasant Beach. So you got the Dollar General over here, uh, the Poached Pear. I've never been there. It says fine dining. I have been to Spanos. That's awesome. B2 Bistro and Bar. That's another great spot to go to. B2 has a nice little brunch menu. Spanos, you will have to make a reservation for. It's an Italian spot. It is going to be pricey, but I promise you, you're getting what you're paid for. That place is awesome. I haven't tried out the barbecue place, but I've heard good things. There is a lobster seafood restaurant somewhere over here. Where are you at? Point Lobster Bar and Grill. That's a good one. And there's a nice little diner over here, Pop's Corner I've been to as well. So there's a couple different good options over there. So if you are looking for a restaurant to go to, the downtown Arnold Avenue area, that's going to be your main spot. It's also had for shopping over there, everything pretty much for Point Pleasant. So this area right here, apologize if you heard my dog, or I got a few of them actually, a few dogs. I like to bark a little bit. I got shepherds. And then you're going to have over into the Point Pleasant area, the boardwalk and stuff. So entertainment wise, this is going to be your main spot if you're going to Point Pleasant, right? People will rent the house here for either the whole summer, a month, even just a week. And this is like the big destination that we have here, right? So it's going to be Jenkinson's Boardwalk. So you're going to, if you notice the name of everything, Stephen Jenkinson's, that's it. But a couple attractions. Point Pleasant, I would say, is definitely gonna be much more for the family-oriented spot versus necessarily going out. Obviously, right here, you're gonna see that we have Martel's Tiki Bar, Jenks Bar. Those are options, and it still is a good spot to go out to. Jenks used to do, at least I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to have a country night every Wednesday. That was always a big hit in our area. They have a couple different concerts and stuff throughout the summer. Recommend that, but they're it's more family oriented than maybe some other townships in here, right? So you're gonna have an aquarium, you're gonna have the boardwalk with the games. There's gonna be mini golf. You're gonna have some rides a little farther down this way. So there's a lot of different things that your kids can do. You can bring your kids to have a day, even a week out. Like there's so much to do in Point Pleasant. Um, he's got Lucky Games. This is going to be like an arcade. So arcade, mini golf, aquarium, boardwalk, beach. It's an awesome time, and you have a lot to do. And then just that little spot actually in Point Pleasant. If you go outside of it, you go up to Fisherman's Cove. This is going to be Manasquan. Well, the Shrimp Box, also really good restaurants in the northern part over there. But if you go into Manasquan, you got Fisherman's Cove. That's like a conservation area. Go for a hike, enjoy the water, just a little bit of outdoors. Manasquan River Golf Shop. Never been there. Not really sure exactly what that is. It looks like a golf course. Haven't played that one just yet. You're also going to have the Brick Reservoir over here. Where are we at? This is gonna have the Brick Reservoir. That's a really nice location. Just go for a walk, get some exercise. So between golf courses, hiking, got literally anything you guys possibly would want. You got the beach. It's all included being around Point Pleasant, right? You're gonna have everything that you possibly probably want to do within 15 minutes, at the very worst, maybe a half an hour. So it's an awesome spot. Highly recommend living there, checking it out. But if you guys have any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns about living in Point Pleasant, I've done some other videos on it, plus this one. So if you are still looking for more information on it, just let me know. But feel free to reach out if you're looking to move, buying, or selling in the area. All my contact information is down low in the comments and description. So whether you're 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, even a year out, it doesn't matter to me. Let's just get you on the right path towards your real estate goals. And if you're looking to move to a different part of the Central Jersey area, check out 2 videos popping up, and hopefully that'll help a little bit too. Have a great day.